everybody. So this is a video for people who aren't sure how to practice and apply scales on jazz chord progressions. We're going to start with a very simple G 12 bar jazz blues, which hopefully will appear in a little box next to me. And this has basically got, we're just going to use one type of scale for this progression, so it's dead simple. And that is the dominant scale, which people might also know as a Mixolydian mode. I prefer the name dominant scale because it goes very simply with the type of chord. You have a major chord, you play the major scale. A minor chord, you play the minor scale. A dominant chord, you play the dominant scale, right? So dominant scales are exactly the same as a Mixolydian, which is to say that it's a major scale with a flattened seventh. So for instance, in the key of C, so going C, D, E, F, G, A, B, I would go C, A, D, E, sorry, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, okay? So I'm basically, the only difference is I'm taking the B and putting it down by a half step and turning it into a B flat, right? Nice and simple, hopefully. And if you've spent any time with modes, I think hopefully reasonably familiar. So we're just going to look at this progression. It's very, very simple. There's just a couple of bits which I'm going to simplify even further. So the E7 we're going to ignore for now. The A minor 7 and D7, we're just going to say that's a D7, right, on its own. So the slightly simplified version of the changes, just to make it a little bit easier to run scales over them. In the Barry Harris world, we tend to see a 2-5, for instance, A minor 7, D7, as being really just a suspension of a single D7 chord. So we just use a D dominant, okay? Makes it a bit easier. Okay, so what's important about this is how we run these scales. We're just going to run them up and down, okay? But we're not going to run them up to the 1 like you normally would, perhaps, if you were practicing scales. We're actually going to run up to the 7th and back. So if there's only one bar of the chord, we're going to run it up to the 7th, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Or if I'm saying the names of the notes, or the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay? Just up to the 7th. And if there's 2 bars of it, we're running up to the 7th and back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the reason why we do that is because it actually puts all of the chord tones on the beat in the manner of a bebop scale. G, B, D, F. Which means that we can really strongly outline each chord within the scale as we play, which is helpful to hear the chord progression. And I would actually advise singing these things as well once you get used to them, because it can really help you internalize the chords and the chord changes of a tune, okay? So, now from a guitarist point of view, I find it took me a little while to get used to playing these shorter little shorter little scale shapes, because I was, playing maybe 2 or 3 octaves in one go before. And these little shorter shapes are really nifty and helpful because, say that again, shorter shapes obviously confused me. If you use these little short scale shapes, they are very helpful because obviously chords can change very quickly in bebop music, as we know. So it's a really good thing to get into, I think, and it's completely changed the way I map scales all over the guitar neck. Instead of playing these big, these big positions, going right across the strings, I now play little, or I map the fretboard with little shapes that I can join together. Anyway, let's do this. So I'm just going to play the whole thing through. So it's I'll talk you through it first. G7 up, C7 up, G7 up, and down again, because it's 2 bars, right? C7 up and down, because it's 2 bars. G, ignoring E7 for now, and then D7 for 2 bars. G7. And then go back to D7 for the turnaround. Okay, I'm going to play that all the way through. 1, 2, 3, 4. D7. Okay, and that's the whole progression. Right, if you want to just kind of make this a little bit cooler, we can make one little tweak, which is take the E7, okay? Now the E7, if you wrote it out as a chord in, music notation, you would find that there was one note that was different in the E7 from the key, or a note that you'd have to sharpen to make from the regular G major key to make it into an E7 chord. and that is the third, which is raised up from a G to a G sharp. So we're going to do something which is called running the scale down to the third of the dominant. Might sound complicated, but in the case of G, it just simply means we go up the scale, and we go to G sharp, which is the third of E7. And you'll notice that gives you the sound of that E7 flat 9 chord really nicely. So I'll just do that in the progression just to show you. G sharp, yeah? Okay, going on. Okay, so that's very simply how we do it for a 12-bar blues. Now, going into improvisation beyond that, you at least now know what scales to use, and then if you have licks and lines that you can play in a given scale, such as this sort of thing for a G7. Sorry. You can play that over a G7 or then you've got your for instance E7. Obviously there's big if there, because not everybody knows tons of bebop lines over every chord progression, but I'm just showing you how you could apply that information once you've done this scale practice routine.